and gentlemen, this is Dorothy, my 1973 Celica project that I've been working on for the better part of 10 years. We'll discuss all about her, but first I want to give you a short history lesson. So the Celica was Toyota's first sport coupe entry into the world market in 1971. And the model started life with some pretty anemic motors, but came out of the gate with a live rear axle and coil springs on the rear and a McPherson strut setup up front. Performance variants came pretty quickly and saw the JDM introduction of the GTV and 2000 GT models with their 1.8 liter 2TG, like in the Killer Corolla, and the 2.0 liter 18RG motors, respectively. The chassis had smattered success in rally early on, and Tosco, the precursor to TRD, produced lots of go-fast goodies. In 1976, Toyota added a liftback to the lineup before moving to the third generation of Celica in 1981. 4 more generations of the lineup would follow, and they would mostly be front-wheel drive and therefore are not really worthy of mention. But there were still fine cars in there, especially when there were all-wheel drive variations like the Rally Giant ST205. Beautiful car. The line carried on up until its demise in 2007, but I suspect that Toyota has a sneaky plan to bring the name back pretty soon, and it better not be on an SUV, or I'm gonna punch somebody in the face. It's a promise. What's that, you ask? A second generation of Toyota Celica? Never happened. I don't know anything about it. So that almost brings us up to the start of my Celica story. In early 2010, I was looking for a vintage Toyota, but not the one that landed in my lap. I saw a 73 or 74 Corolla TE27, which is still the second sexiest little car that Toyota ever made, right behind this beautiful beast. Okay, so that's not the most flattering picture of my single-owner 74 Celica, but the lines are all there, and it was most beautiful to the little old lady who the car is named after, Dorothy, that kissed it on its trunk when we drove it away. So I get this thing home, and I quickly realize that I have no clue how to restore a car. What's worse is that at the time, there wasn't even the slightest bit of aftermarket support for these old Celicas. There's a little bit now through the folks at like Techno Toy to do aftermarket, and there's still, a smattering of new old stock parts around, and you can find some replacement parts, but just nothing. So I fought with one thing or another just to get the car running. And once I did, I took exactly 2 drives before I decided that every restoration I'd ever seen in person or on TV started with the car in pieces, because you got to tear it down to nothing. So I got to blow this thing totally apart. I didn't know at the time that those first couple of drives in the car would be my last drives in my Celica for 10 years and counting. Now, I was lucky enough to find a community of Celica owners and restorers online and a local guru of first generations in Colorado. Shout out to the good Reverend Charlie, as always. I'm not sure I'd still have a Celica project following me around the country if it wasn't for the help of the folks that I found via the interwebs. Over the years, there have been many first generation Celicas that have come in and out of my possession. The 74 was first. Then I bought a 75 for its perfectly unrusty doors and fenders. I should have built the whole car. The rest of it was unrusty. You don't need to have a 74, but I decided I'm going to have this first car. This is the one I'm going to build. Just take my advice. If you get your hands on any clean old Japanese car, build that one. Sentimental value, pooh, right out the window. Forget it. If it's not rusty, build it. So the 75 came in, the 75 went out. I bought a 72, was in pretty good shape. Towed it back from the mountains, made it run, drove it a little bit, and then I sold it because I determined that the body underneath was junk. It had been to Mako 3 times in its life. It was rebuilt with tin can metal. It was just garbage, but it was still a whole car. This is not a whole car. So like the other cars, this car was full of rot in the fenders and in the trunk and in the rocker panels. And it was an automatic car, which is not what you want for doing the sweet drifts and the autocrossings. So why this car? Well, the 74, I had tried to do bodywork myself. Some of it was okay, most of it was garbage, but it was a good learning experience. In the end, bringing something back to workable with that car would have been just a miracle. So this 73 came along and it was unmolested. And I decided, even though it was rusty in all the same places, I'll just start over and I'll collect parts from the four corners of the internet. I'll do $4,000 worth of metal work, beautiful metal work done at the Motorway in Fort Collins, Colorado. Thank you, Frank. But it was worth it because I have here what is one of the very few unrusty early 70s Toyota Celicas in the world. We're talking under 1,000, I would bet, that are still out there right now. Maybe 2, but unrusty is the key. Now, before you all yell at me for throwing away a little old lady's prized possession, 74 Celica, rest assured that it lives on in this car. This is the roof of that 74 Celica that was peeled off of that car. This roof was rusty because it had a vinyl top on it. A lot of them did, ruined them. Anyway, it was welded back on in the factory spots. I also kept the rear end from that car because I rebuilt all of it. New brakes, new bushings, 4-link bushings, and all that good business. So during and after all of that, life happened. I moved, I had a kid, I got a new job, I moved again. I moved back to my hometown of Kansas City. I got another new job. I moved again. I moved again. New job to no job. And here we are now in my dirty shop, finally getting back to work on the Celica. The mission at this point is being dubbed rough but ready. Rough but ready. Rough but ready. Anyway, my aim is to take this car autocrossing alongside the killer Corolla, either yet in the 2020 season, or at least at the start of the season next spring. I feel like the focus on making this thing go racing is gonna fit into my current interests and get me moving on it a little bit. The killer Corolla is a ton of fun to drive with the 2TG full of TRD parts, and I am so hoping that my JDM 18RG 2-liter motor, along with some handling goodies from the likes of Techno Toy Tuning and otherwise, and then a sticky set of Hoosiers, will make Dorothy here just as enjoyable as the killer Corolla. Now, all the while, all along the way, I have been recording and editing videos of my progress, and I either release them on my own personal YouTube or through my old business Facebook page. It was Gearhead Shirts. If you've been around since then, much love, right? I don't do that. But anyway, thank you for following me to other places. And I've heard from some folks recently that they missed my Celica updates. So I've got them all. I have all those old videos, and I think this is just a reintroduction to the entire process that I've gone through and where I am today. And I'm gonna try to take some of those old videos and rebrand them for Outside, Inside, Outside Racing and put them out through this channel. So every week or so, we'll have a new update on the Celica. I'm definitely gonna re-edit a lot of them because some of them were very long and super boring, but there's a lot of content in there. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way though, with this car and with my life. But I think that's what a project ought to offer you. A chance to screw up and then do it again, and then again, and then again, until you're satisfied that it's the absolute best that you can do. So join me on my misadventures and give me a like or the occasional comment of encouragement or constructive criticism. You stick with me, subscribe to Outside, Inside, Outside Racing here on YouTube, and together, we're gonna go racing. We're gonna race this thing, and it's gonna be so awesome. I'm not crying, you're crying. Shut up. God, I'll just leave you here. Here I go. Because I got a microphone on, you can't follow me. Maybe you can see me now. Can you see me?